Warning: the following podcast features views and opinions that are likely to trigger the extreme fanboys and fangirls who disagree with them. Listener discretion is advised.
No, it was not a YouTube malfunction. That notification that there's a new episode of Hot Takes with Billy Biz, that's 100% true. I'm back. I know I said, no, show's over. I'm not doing anymore, but I don't know. If Oasis can get back together, so can I. That's what I've been using for just about everything. I'm with my buddy Ed Greer from Reboot It, which Reboot It is also back. Ed, we had a whole podcast at the end of the final season of Hot Takes where we talked about nostalgia. How does it feel to finally be nostalgic for ourselves?
Dude, I have been up my own ass since the beginning of time. So I was born an Ouroboros. So I love this. I love self-referential stuff. And this is great. I'm glad to be part of the self-referential pipeline. And we're talking about a very self-referential product here. So it's pretty good.
So I had said towards the end, people say, why are you ending the podcast? It's like, well, I just didn't really have anything else to say. All my thoughts have got out there. And now that it's been about 3 years since the last episode came out, shocker, I have a whole lot of new thoughts. A lot of new things have come out, a lot of new developments. And today we're talking about one that you and I used to talk about back when we did Commute Killers, because there was a lot of back and forth about whether this was even going to happen. And that's 2021's Spider-Man No Way Home. I specifically remember they were kind of doing their Sony and Marvel were kind of doing their stuff in public in terms of like, we're not going to do the next one and blah, 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 blah. And I remember I was so heated for some reason. We were driving home. I was like, flip on the recorder. We're talking about this. And I can't remember if it was me or if it was you, but one of us 100% said, this is bullshit. This movie will come out. Everyone needs to be quiet.
Well, I mean, I don't remember who it was, but I think the Occam's razor of it all was that it was definitely going to come out, period. And I think as I recall at that time, every nerd worth their salt were trying to get in on the which corporation do you like the best war, which was fucking insane, by the way. Like just next level consumerism idiocracy. That was, you know what I'm saying? I'm down with Sony. I think a Craven movie's a fine idea versus Disney's the best. I saw Disney. Thought Disney out right now. I'll blow them right now. It's like, dude, why are we having to pick between these two developmentally challenged clans?
And this was before there was a Snyder Cut was even announced coming out on HBO. Like that was its whole other thing. We were still in the is it Bigfoot or not type of discussions with the Snyder Cut. I digress. Spider-Man No Way Home was one of those ones where once they say that Tom Holland came in and kind of played Peacemaker, sure. But it also had the worst kept secret maybe in big movie secret history, which was Andrew Garfield and Tobey Maguire were going to come back. This was going to be kind of the live action version of the of kind of like the Spider-Verse, which it was reported on so much, and then you saw trailers where like they had edited out two other Spider-Men that clearly were going to be there, people getting phantom punched, but here's the interesting thing. COVID hits, and COVID changes everything. It changed the release date. It even changed the order in which a lot of these MCU things came out. It was December of 2021, and we were kind of half back, half not. Especially around November, December of 2021, because and a lot, it's funny because you say this and people are like, oh yeah, I forgot. We just got to a point where like, I think COVID is like manageable, not gone, but manageable. Then the Corona or not, sorry, not the corona. There was that variant. Remember that variant?
Oh yeah,
came?
the fucking what was it? The Optimus Prime something.
Yeah, it was something crazy. And they're like, oh, well. And then it was like Spider-Man became this thing where people were like, well, I guess I'm getting COVID because I'm going. This probably single-handedly saved movie theaters from just being gone. This was like the first $1 billion back. What's interesting to me, though, is somehow you and I have never talked about this movie. I don't even know when you saw it or what you thought walking out. So usually have a pretty good idea, and I'll even ask you to do an episode because I know where you're coming from and I want to poke. I have no idea where you're coming from. So take me back to the first time you saw this movie, man.
Well, first of all, just the risk assessment, early part of Fight Club when Jack is talking about like risk assessment for like automobile places, that conversation in your head as to is this worth it to go Omicron, that's what it was. Omicron, was that what it was?
Omicron or whatever it was.
Yeah.
I just remember I was like, oh God, this is going to be every year, isn't it?
Yeah. So yeah, the Unicron was coming out, and I think that was the joke at the time. People kept calling it Unicron, and it kept transforming. Why wouldn't they call it anyway? So the point is, you're doing that math about going. I went. I ended up sitting in. I remember it so specifically. I sat in the farthest back row on the farthest left side, in a smallish, but not all the way small theater. I like did all these calculations like, okay, in a big ass theater, there's going to be too many people in there and they're going to cough all on me. No thanks. Too small theater, too intimate. Can't do that. Medium, this these weird theater right here that I could be all the way back. And it's sort of I guess it probably would have been a smaller theater, but I was like, I felt like I was taking a less of a risk. And I'm sitting back and I remember to this day, as soon as I got in there, sat down, got my popcorn, got everything, this dude right in front of me just starts hacking. And I'm like, bro, what the hell? And I could just envision like the droplets going up and coming down like a Forrest Gump feather on me. So the point is, I felt really anxious for like probably 20 minutes into the movie. Sincerely, I sat through all those stupid ass trailers. I don't know what the hell the trailers were. And once the movie started, my overall experience, I swear to God, from what I can recall, I was anxious and low key didn't like it until about halfway through, when I started to like be okay. This is where we're at. He's made a genie wish, and Spider-Man has made a genie wish, and we're dealing with the fallout. Fine. Once I got to that point, it was just onward and upward, baby, to infinity and beyond. I really liked it. But up until that point, I was like, either my anxiety or just the artifice of the entire enterprise just pissed me off on some level. And I had to get to this place where I accepted it somewhere in the middle.
Which is so funny because I had literally almost the exact opposite of you, like for every facet. So I did not, I did not roll the dice on this one. At that point, kids, like little kids, were the last to get the vaccines. So I really just didn't do anything until my daughter could get the vaccine. So as much as I really wanted to, I skipped this one in theaters. Yeah. The only Spider-Man movie I think I've ever skipped, but so be it. So I saw this in March when it finally came out on digital. So I kind of knew everything that was in the movie by that point. I don't think you could log on to social media without seeing most of the movie at that point, but it's fine. And the spoilers never bothered me. I just wanted to see how it all coalesced. And I remember just being like entranced, literally just like entranced by it. Like just kind of like, the whole time, not really thinking anything about it. I will say the one thing that is so jarring about this movie, watching it at home, and I was like, man, this movie probably ripped in theaters, but at home, there are so many breaks for where they anticipate applause. The biggest one is when Andrew Garfield comes in. He comes in and he's like, and I'm just like, what is happening? This is so awkward. Why have we not cut? Like, why is it holding on this for so long? And it does that a couple times. And then I was talking with my wife about it. I was like, oh, I think they kind of anticipated that no one would be able to hear anything if the audience was cheering, so they wait.
Right.
But unlike you, the first time it was all gravy. I was like, this is amazing. Then I made the mistake of really thinking about it, and it just started to come down bit by bit. This movie to me is fascinating because like I'm about to like seriously hate on it a lot, and yet I still thoroughly enjoy watching it. If it comes on TNT or FX or whatever, I'll sit there and I'll watch the whole damn thing. It is like that's the biggest magic trick that Doctor Strange does is like they made a very a not great movie incredibly watchable and incredibly entertaining, but the minute like you like kind of peek behind the curtain or you see how the magic trick is done, you're like, ugh, that's not very good.
Well, see, and that's
yeah.
funny because like that's why I had my experience. I was like, I think I saw the magic trick from the get-go, and I was like, hey, this guy's doing some pretty good magic tricks. You know what I mean? But like by the middle, I was like, hey, these tricks are pretty good. I mean, I don't know where the card is. 7 of hearts, that's my card. You know what I mean? I wasn't looking at the doves in his sleeves anymore by the middle. But from the get-go, I was like, you know damn well he ain't about to saw this bitch in half. This is dumb. This is dumb.
So, let's just jump right into like, and I watched this again yesterday, and I think I texted you. I was like, I feel like a raccoon because I'm just having a blast in absolute garbage. Like never have I been entertained by garbage. So just like because I don't have anything else to say other than this is blind. This might be some of the most atrocious dialogue in all of the MCU. I mean, I cannot get over how like they infantilize Peter Parker either for jokes or for plot to the point where like even the dialogue is just like the one like you didn't call them. I can do that. I was like, this can't be a major motion picture, you know, like. Or the other one that just kills me that I'm just like, come on, which is the dean of admissions, where after she can say, she's like, Peter, I'm going to talk to the admissions office and I'm going to get you and your friends into college. And then she's just like, and you, man who just tried to murder me, shame on you. You're bad. I was like, what the hell is this? What is this?
Well, I mean, what's interesting to me is that I think and the point has been made by smarter minds than me, but we have entered a place where we must look at how childish all this stuff that we like is. And when we see how childish it is, we just go, no, I don't like that. And it's like, no, I mean, these are some of the strictures of this like genre. If this was a comic book panel, that's how that lady would talk. And I'm not saying they were striving for that at all. But I'm saying that sort of flat affect, and I got to use a dialogue bubble to get us from one leap in logic to another leap in logic. They have definitely adapted that technology into these movies. You know what I'm saying? And it isn't out of reverence for the source material. It's about they have to hand wave such vast, you know, story spaces that you end up with some of these things. And then you end up with some of these cutesy scenes where they're trying to spice the movie up because it's gray, you know, arms of octopus guys and flips and shit for minutes at a time, and then they come back to these small vignettes that they feel humanize the movie, but they kind of piss people like you off because you're like, nah, fuck that, I'm trying to take this seriously, and you're like yanking me out of it with these Laurel and Hardy bits.
I don't even know if it's like I'm trying to take it seriously so much as like it's literally that first 20 minutes you speak of where it's like the both examples that I pulled were from those first 20 minutes where it's just like until they get those other guys for Tom Holland to play off of, it's almost like we don't have, like, you're right, we don't have any gags to like, you know, bring in humor, so we'll just I don't even know what, like, you didn't call them. I'm just like, it's like that old horror thing where it's like you have to make your characters stupid in order like to
Right.
progress a plot, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like I said, it's the first 20 minutes, it's the most egregious. But okay, here was the thing that like kind of bothered me yesterday, where I was just like, okay, so he does this, he goes to Doctor Strange to this spell because he wants to get his friends into college. Just the stakes to that are so low. What could be better stakes? I don't know. The fact that everybody thinks that you're a murderer, that would probably be higher stakes to get Doctor Strange to wipe everyone's mind away. So why did they resolve that so quick, like within 7 or 8 minutes? And it was just like, oh, don't worry, Peter, the charges are dropped. I was like, what? I kind of thought that was the whole point of this movie. The first time I saw it, at least, you know?
Oh, no, absolutely. And I feel like, though, again, see, you're the hottest take. I am slightly lukewarm water, trying to cool down the branding irons a little bit. I think what's interesting about that take is part of it is that's what almost everybody thought the movie was going to be. Thusly, I could see Watts and them, you know, being like, we can't do that. We like literally can't. Number one, as far as the stakes of a Spider-Man running for his life for the first 40 minutes of a movie, you and I would jizz all over that. It'd be like Spider-Man's dorm room. You know what I mean? But like, I think that they thought that all the little kids and all the people they were going to have to get into the theater to make this a success during this whole thing. I just really think they were like, dude, this can't be that serious and that intense and that like Pelican brief, you know what I'm saying, for like 40 minutes. We just can't do it. It would have been a far better story, in my personal opinion, too. But they knew they just couldn't do it. They knew that something very simple that you tell your little toddler, he had to wish on the thing and then now they're going to do stuff. Okay. And you're done talking for a lot of the movie. They had to do it something like that. And I think it does mess it up a little bit, but it is what it is.
I mean, I almost wish like, I don't know. I almost wish like they just like did a complete do-over and almost acted like that tag never happened. That, I mean, you can't, but it's just like, it was just like, oh my God, talk about a juicy plot carrot that they dangle. And then they kind of tease you a little bit because they arrest Peter, they arrest everyone, and they bring them in for questioning. And I was just like, oh man, like this is very cool. And then you immediately resolve it. And then the stakes just like, it just felt like a little bit like Return of the Jedi. Like, okay, we got Han Solo back. I guess now the movie starts, you know?
Yeah.
And then on top of that, like we never ever talk again about anyone mistrusting Peter. There's never any questioning about like, is he a killer? Is he a good guy? It just seems like once the charges are dropped, the storylines dropped. I can understand like if the charges are dropped, but there's maybe still some ramifications. And you know, Daredevil, what's his name? Matt Murdock kind of says as much, like the court of public opinion. It's like, okay, so someone threw paint on you, I guess. But other than that, like, what's the big deal, you know?
Right. I mean, but again, I think it's just like the type of stakes that even little kids can understand. And I mean, that's what I meant by like, running up against I don't know, it's like the lack of depth in this material. I'm sorry, it's going to rear its ugly head. Even in something where you try to take it super serious, like this Daredevil series, there's only so much you go until it's like, I'm the mayor and I hate the vigilantes. It's like, all right. You know, there's only so serious it can be.
I get it.
You know what I mean? So I mean, but I'm saying,
don't dangle the carrot then. You know what I mean? Like just take the carrot out, you know?
Yeah, we could watch grown-up movies if we wanted to. We could watch some on Golden Pond and shit. Motherfuckers up under trains trying to escape 1950s Georgia, and I mean the Russian Georgia. Fuck it, you know what I'm saying? We can do it if we want.
If the whole time is just gonna be like, Billy, it's a kids movie, then I might as well end the episode because I have nothing.
No, I'm just saying every point that we're gonna come to where they're just like, most of the points in the beginning are like that. As we get later into the story, it's like, okay, given this format of kid movie, wow, like, look what you're doing with the pathos, like I would say grown up pathos of the characters, like Peter Parker getting old and stuff. Let's call him Peter Parker getting old and realizing that like this Spider-Man jazz is like, this is like almost this weird chapter in his life. And like Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man having that whole jazz about how he got mean and cynical and shitty. He basically was talking about, I got Frank Millerized. It was like they let Frank Miller write me. I was knocking people's jaws off. I was being superior Spider-Man. I was being an asshole. And then that reflecting on our Spider-Man, the 616 or the whatever, however many numbers there are for this derivation. The point is,
they want to designate it, right?
Right. I just felt like the movie, to me, the parts that suck about it, I hated all of it. I could hate with the best of them. Don't get it twisted. Motherfucking all that shit with Happy and Homegirl was ass. They didn't want to do anything. Again, they didn't want to do anything mature. These little babies didn't want to do anything mature. So they have these two old ass people, one of them super hot, have this off-screen relationship because ew. Why would we watch them kiss on screen? That's yucky for the little babies. So we were robbed of like the last actual grown-up relationship that Aunt May ever had. We're robbed of it because it's just off screen. It's just this throwaway. There's so many scenes that could have been in there that could have bolstered the whole scene of like Happy and Aunt May trying to be a family again to Peter, and then just losing it again. You know what I mean? Like the equilibrium would have been restored. The guy at my job likes my aunt. We're like a weird family unit. I kind of detest that he's banging my aunt, but I can't think of anybody better. Oh God, now she's dead. That would have been great, but they just played around with a couple bits, that weird charity thing and all that stuff. All of that was ass. And every single scene with him and all his captured villains is ass to me. That's my hot take. I hate all that shit. Honestly, all of it. I got a new body. I turn people into lizards, suck my balls. I hated all of it. In the middle of the movie when I was watching it, I really hated all that. Until the Spider-Men come, basically, and they start really engaging with the story and having to deal with the fallout of the beginning. I don't like every block that's leading up to the actual Spider-Man getting engaged in the story. I almost hate every one of those blocks. Ned using the magic real quick. It's like, come on, dude. Like, if you handed this script in, I think your main beef with this movie, and my main beef with it is, if we handed this script in, they would say these logic leaps and this ridiculous plot and this dialogue is so ass, you will never be a professional writer in this town. You need to get self-immolate. Go out and set yourself on fire. This is so bad. And these guys get to do it and make millions of dollars and make us laugh and feel and cry with this same ridiculous script. That cognitive dissonance is fucking with both of us, Billy. That is the case.
Maybe that's what it is. Because so you brought up a lot of points, but one of the points that I jumped on was we get a lot of characters coming back. But the thing is, and I truly wish I had a better example than the one I'm about to use, because I've used it before and I still can't think of a better example. A lot of these characters are there, but they don't act like the ones that it was like when they did Fuller House and they brought Bob Saget back as Danny Tanner, but this time he just was Bob Saget. He wasn't Danny Tanner anymore. He was just Bob Saget, and you just had to kind of make the connection, like, I guess this is Danny. The same thing happens here a lot. And the fact that you're like, Garfield's like, I became bitter. I became this. I'm like, really? There's literally nothing that you are doing or have done that would ever lead me to believe that monologue is true. And that's why, like, I don't buy into that moment, because I'm just like, you're telling me you haven't shown me anything. And also, that's not the character that I kind of left behind before. Same with like Electro. Like, it was a do-over because that other Electro sucked. But and I'm not even saying I dislike this Electro, but it's like, we're bringing back these characters, and I guess it serves this story, but it's like a weird, like, we're forgetting the logic of the movies that they were in. Like Sandman, they make this whole thing like we have to cure everybody. We got to cure Sandman, and it's like, well, they make it seem like he can't ever be a guy again, like he is just sand. I was like, that's not the way it was before. Like, if I were him, I wouldn't want this to go away because you can just mist away in sand whenever you need to and be human whenever you need to.
Right.
But this kind of like, and I get it. There's logistical. Thomas Hayden Church wasn't there, so they had to do their best. But it's just
sand him up.
Yeah, they just like sand him. Same with like Lizard. They're like, just give him a lizard. But I guess it was like, yeah, a lot of these characters, Tobey Maguire even was like, it's so cool to see him. But at least that first scene he's back, I'm like, this does not feel like the same Peter Parker. It feels like Tobey Maguire, you know?
Well, I mean, I think you can forgive some of these people for not remembering how to do these old ass roles, but I would say my beef with it was, again, when they start doing teamwork jazz and him like low key trying to like lead the Spider-Man, I think I felt something. I wanted to feel something. I felt the most that I felt for the whole movie. When they start to do the 3-man Spider-Man jazz, I'm not made of stone, Billy. I'm not. You know what I'm saying?
The scene of them before the villains show up, of them just talking, I could watch that on repeat for a whole day and be entertained. That to me could have been the whole movie and I'd be fine. So don't get me wrong. I love all that part. I'm just saying, like, there's a lot of just like, okay, you like, if this movie hinges around the fact that these are characters that we know and that they are the same characters from those situations that came over, a lot of them don't act like the same characters that they were. So there is that kind of like, I guess you just have to let it go, or you can like try to maybe surmise that it's kind of like Keaton's Batman and the Flash, where you're like, what was the point? Because that's not the same. That's not the same Michael Keaton Batman we saw anyway. It's like an alternate universe. You know what I mean?
Yeah, infinite variants and stuff. I really feel like, just to go back to our lost plot though, of like, man, a little bit more time of Spider-Man being a fugitive. Like somehow Spider-Man coming from the multiverse to help out a Spider-Man that is going to die and mess something up. That could have been tight. You know what I'm saying? I mean, this is, you know, I think that's tight. You know what I'm saying? You're in such a fucking jam that Spider-Man from other dimensions have to come help you. It's like, you know, you're not getting them rounded up in some weird way. They're coming to you, but of course that might be a little bit too Spider-Verse. I could certainly see why they might not like that. But again, it's a Sony thing that they, you know, I talked to this lady who works in the Disney legal department, and I may have even talked about this on Hot Takes. She fucking literally thinks that like it's reversed. That like Disney is like, yeah, Sony, you can do stuff. Like, no. Sony says, Disney, you can help us with this. You can help us with the creative on this because we obviously suck. That's what Sony is saying, not the other way around. You know what I mean? She works at Disney. She thinks it's the other way around. That Disney's like, oh yes, we're throwing Sony a bone. No, Sony's throwing you a bone, but they realize that they can't do it without you either. You know what I mean? So it's like that sort of thing. But yeah, the whole mechanism of the movie just really gets going when the Spider-Man show up. And I would have just loved that, for that to have that, the stakes that it has at the end, to have something similar to that a little bit earlier, you know, besides, you know, I honestly didn't like my, you know, way back in the days on Nickelodeon, they would have those like 50 sitcoms and shit. And that's what was happening for like 20 minutes with him and his 3 sons or whatever, with the villains walking around in Aunt May's apartment fucking shit up.
Oh my god! Why did they go with him? Why they're in captivity, and it's like, okay, I'm gonna let you out, but you have to come to this apartment with me and let me cure you. And by the way, if you've paid attention to any of the other movies, which this movie clearly is rewarding anyone who has seen those, it takes a lot of the drama out because we've seen at least half of these people been cured already. It's like, oh, how's he going to fix Doc Ock? Well, we already know. You disable the little chip. Oh, how's he going to fix Lizard? Well, we already know that gas got, you know, already changed him back in the other one. So it's like their whole big thing was like, we have to cure everybody. And it's like, I don't hate that, but at the same time, I'm like, but I've already seen this villain before. I've already seen him being cured before.
Right.
What new thing are you going to show me? You know?
Well, dude, and at the time, bro, all of the people who were jumping out of the woodworks to be like, don't you see how poetic it is that the Punisher kills his villains and the Batman in the movies at least drops them off of shit, throws them over stuff, beats their ass generally, throws them in prisons with no rehabilitation at best. Spider-Man is healing his villains. Isn't that cool? Well, here, no. As an idea, as an intellectual exercise, like true democracy or libertarianism, fine, great. In practical application, like those things, it sucks. You know what I'm saying? It like really sucks. And
by the way, atrocious dialogue. How about like, what's this? Oh, this is Tony Stark's make shit machine. A what? Oh yeah, just make shit. Just think of something and it makes it. And I'm like, what?
Bro, I just really feel like, also just last things last, I would feel like if 3 Spider-Men had to fight a world gone mad that was trying to kill a Spider-Man, or even if like one of the Spider-Man came back, or whatever. I know they're trying to get the whole nostalgia dollar. So again, 3 Spider-Men against the world for a lot of the movie or so, or like 1 Spider-Man against the world, and then somewhere in the middle the guys come in, just more or less the structure of this movie. I think that could have been really dope. And I think them trying to like technology up a couple of the villains or some super version of one of their villains that's created on this world because of Peter's malfeasance or something could have been cool. But they were just like, the nostalgia factor of having all those actors back, including Willem Dafoe and stuff like that. And Willem Dafoe is trying his ass off in here. I don't know if it's like over the top, like the 15th time that Anthony Hopkins played Hannibal Lecter. When he just started phoning that shit in, he started radioing that shit in from the trailer, sitting in the bathtub after a while, playing that.
Those are just all deleted scenes by the 3rd time. He's like, just reuse my deleted stuff.
Right.
No,
James L. Jones, me.
Willem Dafoe said, I'm not doing this movie unless you let me do my own stunts. So he was all about it. But to your point, you know what would have been cool? And I think is like, this is one of those things where it's like, I honestly, I try not to criticize movies for things they didn't do that I wanted them to do. I try to just like look at what's there. That being said, I think this is just kind of a problem with the multiverse Marvel in general, which is like, man, you couldn't just have like 1 or 2 new villains that we never got to see, like that don't have to be from either that trilogy or the Amazing Spider-Man movies. Like, the one movie that I thought did it like better was Deadpool and Wolverine, because it's like, okay, we have Blade and we have Elektra, we know them, but we also got Gambit, which was never a part of anything and just exists for this. It's like, man, you're telling me we couldn't have gotten like a Scorpion or something, or any other villain from Spider-Man that just wasn't in one of those movies? It's like, it's the multiverse. It's like, are you telling me this spell only affected essentially 2 universes before you locked it down? Like, that's not as fun. And we never get to see the MCU version of any of those characters. It's like, oh, you kind of shot your wad on all those characters and you chose the ones that already existed,
Yeah, I mean, I think that's kind of a big one. But if I were again playing a devil's advocate, I would be like, okay, well, we shot our wad doing that in a Marvel movie, so fuck it. Who cares? You know what I mean? Like,
sure. I get it.
They're thinking that would be maybe the best usages of those guys, rather than you seeing like just the gnarliest Ock. His Ock things are guns. Like, come on, there's only so much you can metalhead these guys up. But I'm pushing to see the kangaroo. Real Marvel fans know who that is. The kangaroo jumping up, hitting Spider-Man with bricks on his hands and shit. I want to see that.
I know it hadn't happened at that point, but it's like, could you imagine if that was the first time we saw like a live action Craven, you know, and he was one of them. Like I just feel like that opportunity was, they were just like, nope, this is only nostalgia. Like that's what the multiverse is to us. It's only things you've already seen. I'm just like, it kind of sucks that to them the multiverse is something that you've already seen. You just never seen it together with other things. You know what I mean? As opposed to like, whoa, this could be great. Like the one thing everybody almost universally loved about Doctor Strange, the second one, was that 15 seconds he went through all those different kind of universes, and it's like, okay, well, that's the closest you've gotten to like a true multiverse, not just like, oh, there's Patrick Stewart from that one movie, and you know, fucking Miles Teller from the other Fantastic Four having a smoke, you know.
Well, I mean, yeah, I think that the multiverse being a what if multiverse in Marvel, I've said it before, I say it again, it's the main weakness of Marvel versus DC. DC really embraces the Elseworlds concept, where it's just like, hey man, there's places where Batman's in the Ku Klux Klan, fuck it, go, you know. And they don't worry about how, oh, what event in the DCU could have driven him to do that. You know what I'm saying? Like Joe Chill was black. Oh shit. You know what I mean? Like they don't even attempt to really do that in those worlds. They just make that world, Batman's a gangster vampire. Fuck it, go. And they let it be. But Marvel's so obsessed with how these other worlds relate to this one, and juxtaposing them and trying to have them meet and all this different shit. And DC's just like, hey man, what if Swamp Thing and Poison Ivy had a baby and it engulfed the whole world? Whatever, you know, and they just do a story and they love it. So I really think Marvel, I wish the genie, you know, Doctor Strange is a genie in this movie, as I stated earlier. I wish the genie could go back in the bottle on that respect of just like really taking time to be like, the multiverse is not just different facets of this world. The multiverse is vast, you know what I'm saying, and it has all this different, you know, and they in the 2 seconds in the Doctor Strange movie, we go to the paint dimension, we go to animated dimension, we go to water dimension, and we're out. It's like, no, there's so much interesting stuff that can happen, so many story stakes that could happen if we're Play-Doh for 10 minutes, and they were just like, nah, you know. And I think that's, you're sensing that in this movie a lot, with the stakes being so up. My friends can't go to their first choice college. Welcome to life. You know what I'm saying? Like, what's going on with this? Just the entitlement of that really low-key pissed me off in the movie theater. I think that's part of that, between that and the droplet anxiety, that made a potent cocktail of fuck y'all for me. You know what I'm saying? Because like this, you can't get into your favorite college. Oh, you could lift 10 tons and bang broads and swing all around the world. You went to Europe last summer. Tony Stark personally wanted to give you the world. Come on, man. I'm having trouble feeling sorry for you, especially after you got the charges dropped. You know what I'm saying?
Like immediately, by the way.
Immediately. Which I love I love them working in Daredevil, because
you like that? I hated it. But please
love it.
Go ahead.
No. I love it just because I'm a Daredevil sucker, as anybody who's been listening to me on your podcast or on my own knows. For all time, I'm a Daredevil sucker, and frankly, I'm a Matt Murdock sucker. I liked when he showed up in She-Hulk, and I'm not saying I hated the She-Hulk series. I'm saying a lot of people hated it. I saw very few people being like, I hated the Daredevil part, because Daredevil's low-key dope as fuck, and he's a unifying lower level figure in the Marvel universe. You know what I'm saying? He's somebody you could bump into. You got a little legal trouble. You got an abogados, you know, sign on the fucking bus bench, you know. That he's a fixture. He's a figure that you might run into. It grounds it. And the rest of this movie is like them Avatar boulders. This shit floating in the sky. The rest of the intellectuality, the rest of the stakes, the rest of the seriousness is all floating around willy-nilly. But stuff like that low-key grounds this sort of enterprise. So I did like that. And I even liked him catching the break and shit. And they asked him, what kind of lawyer are you? I'm a good one. Oh, I loved it. It got over on me. It's the one corny thing in there that I was just like, fuck it. Daredevil can't be corny. It's a transitive law of the universe.
So when I first saw him, I was like, That's awesome. I didn't even finish that Netflix show. Just it wasn't for me. I just didn't like it. But I was like, hey, that's awesome. I like the idea, just as you said, of Matt Murdock, and I'm glad that I know it. But then the brick comes in and he catches it. How'd you do that? I'm a really good lawyer. Cut. We never go back to it. Nothing. And my wife's like, what was that? And I had to pause it. And I was like, it's Daredevil. And she's like, oh, so he's like going to be a hero in this? I was like, I don't think so. I think, and that's when you kind of like realize, I was like, this is what the multiverse is. Like, we've gone past the point of like, if Matt was just the lawyer and we knew it and that was cool and we moved on, I don't think there's any problem. But the fact that we're like, and he's Daredevil, and if you know that, that's awesome. And if you don't, this is just really weird, but who cares? Because Easter eggs, Easter eggs, Easter eggs. And I was kind of like, that to me, that scene adjusted my expectations on the fly. I was like, oh, we're just going to drop things in here to see if you remember them. And it doesn't matter if it makes sense. If I was Peter, I'd be like, no, seriously, how did you do that? What are you? Who are you? And I would be like, later on that fight, be like, hey, we should call my lawyer. He's got some sort of powers, I think. As like,
yeah,
you know what I mean?
Yeah, that's funny. That's a funny.
I think that's just like I'm not blaming this movie in particular. I'm not even blaming Marvel in particular. I think when DC was what it was, they did that shit too, where it was just like, we don't have to explain ourselves in this moment because fans will just love it and we'll move on. I'm like, yeah, but at a certain point, like a movie like this, especially where it's just like, that's kind of the whole, you kind of made this the crux of your movie, which is like how much, it's like, I feel like I'm taking one of those like clickbait quizzes, like how much of a 90s kid were you? Answer this. It's like, how much of a Marvel fan are you? Like, see how many you get right. You know what I mean?
Yeah, like Limp Bizkit plays over the credits of how many movies? Did you say 5, 7, or 9? Yeah. And the one thing that I really thought was interesting about the movie was when we finally got to how we're going to rehabilitate these guys. I really felt like the movie just gave itself over to the fact that he kind of couldn't, and he was going to cure him and he was going to do this and then the other, but there was no, what way is there to teach people not to be like damaged by their experiences? Like, just because, you know what I mean? Like, if Norman Osborn wasn't crazy, he'd still be a billionaire evil business scientist. You know what I mean? And
that's sorry, I hate I'm trying to cut you off. That was to me the biggest thing where I was like, these characters aren't acting like themselves, which is they made Norman seem like he's so docile and just like infantilized, just like Peter, like, I don't know what's happening. It's like, dude, you were already a dick well before like the first 15-20 minutes of that same Raimi movie. You are already a dick. This just made you 1,000 times worse. So it's like, unless you're telling me this is a new character from a different offspring of that, like a very similar but not quite the same universe, it's like, either what's the point, or you're just completely like rewriting these characters to make this movie work. And it's like, I don't know. That to me was the biggest example of like, you are not the same character,
Yeah. And I think they do that though, again, because even a little baby kid can chart the arc of somebody who whimpers to somebody who's body slamming people and blowing up people's aunties. Even a baby could chart that arc. You know what I mean? Whereas if he was sort of like brusque or had a dope plan or was really cool or whatever, or wanted his latte this way or whatever the fuck, I don't think people could like see that turning into evil psychopathy, because was dramatized in American Psycho. The difference between a psychopath and a middle management person in a finance company is nothing. As far as behavior, as far as dress, as far as mannerisms, nothing. There is no difference. So charting that to a psychopath would have been too hard for the babies. So again, he goes from a little mouse to a
And
raging
nothing
psychopath.
irritates me more than dropping memes into movies when he was like, I was like, don't finish that sentence. Don't do it.
Well, only thing that could have made that good was if he was talking to Electro, and that was the Black Twitter version of that meme that a lot of people have seen. That would have been worth the price of admission. You got one N-word, you're gonna use it in this PG-13 thing that's supposed to save cinema.
I will say, okay, I know I've just been shitting on this movie and I have more shit to drop, but one of the things that consistently makes me laugh is when they're in the apartment and Sandman is talking to Electro, and they acknowledge, to your point, how ridiculous all of these movies are and all of this comic book stuff is. And he's like, I fell into a vat of eels. And he's like, oh, I fell into a thing. He's like, damn, gotta be careful where you fall. That line makes me laugh every single time.
But there are, and the thing that's interesting about shit like that is so many people are so in the know and think they're so fucking smart about how many people end up writing these movies, but stuff like that shows you how many people write these movies. Because I'm sorry, I doubt the same human hand that wrote that line wrote, oh, you can do that though. I really doubt it. You know what I mean? These movies are such the Ragman from DC. They're like patchwork quilts, you know what I'm saying, of all these different minds, you know what I'm saying? And we know screenwriters who have been in some of these meetings where they just sort of look at the movie and as Patton Oswalt used to say in a bit, they look at the movie that's already shot and already done, and they shout jokes from off screen and see how they can ADR them into the fucking movie. You know what I'm saying? We know screenwriters who have done shit like that, or punch ups when they're in the last editing, you know, of a movie and shit like that. There's so many different ways these things get punched up and punched down, you know what I mean? And assembled, and shit like that just stands out. Yeah, be careful where you fall. That shit is funny as hell. It's a whole different caliber of joke.
Maybe top 5 funniest lines in the MCU for me. Every time I hear it, it's like I heard it for the first time and I crack up. The one that just gets me, and I don't know why it's so funny to me, when they have that little huddle in the middle of like, guys, this isn't working, you know? And he's like, Peter 1, Peter 2, and then he's like, Peter 3, you know? For some reason, when he says Peter 3, I die laughing. And my wife was like, this is another point I want to bring up, but my wife was like, we need to watch those Amazing Spider-Mans because I've never seen him and he's great. I was like, no. Do not let this movie fool you. The 10 minutes of screen time that he has in this movie is the most charismatic and likable that Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man ever was. And I saw after this movie came out that people were like, we need an Amazing Spider-Man 3. We need Garfield back. I'm like, do not use this movie as an excuse to go back in time and put those movies or a lot of these nostalgia movies on a pedestal. We all agreed with our wallets that we did not like Amazing Spider-Man and we did not want that anymore. So it's like when people are like, oh, we loved it. I was like, no, you didn't. I promise you didn't. You were the same people that were like ready to revolt when you heard what they were going to do with Amazing Spider-Man 3. You don't want it.
Well, I mean, I think Spider-Man is one of those concepts where I think we can get to why this is so dope, though, because in a world where there has never been a good third Spider-Man movie, you know, this shit like rocked super hard. You know what I mean? Like as far as like, there isn't any other third Spider-Man movie that's better than this or even close to it. And I'm being a little bit facetious, but the very fact that the story spine of these Spider-Man movies is very strong. I feel like kid dealing with all this jazz, and when he comes back from the blip, he's got to deal with this regular high school jazz, and then his world expands a little bit, and he can't even be Spider-Man because that'll mess his stuff up, and all this weight of multiple worlds is on him. And then this third one, he's finally like prepared for a little bit of that, but then he shirks the responsibility for trying to get out of it by rubbing the genie. You know, it'd be funny if you had to rub Stephen Strange to make spells
Put it
happen.
in Cumberbatch's stomach.
It's just like, come here, Cumberbatch. It's like, don't call me that, dude. Not when you're rubbing my stomach, dude. It's weird. This is mad sus, yo. What are you, a Gen Z or what are you talking like that? Anyway, the point is, fucking, I just really felt like them keeping this character this consistent for 3 straight movies, and really more movies than that, but at least 3 straight movies in his own little world, his own silo. I thought that was really cool. And I have been straight up him being Tony's heir hater the whole time. Hated it forever. And just the kind of, this is the end of that. And then that's why I got so pissed off with the fucking AC/DC scene and the magical make stuff machine at the end. I'm like, God damn it. And then what was wild was at the end of the movie, which we can get to later, but like whatever you want to talk about that, the end of the movie was so heartening because I feel like it was the end of all that bullshit. It was like they were like, yeah, we kind of let Spider-Man be like a UN official. You know what I'm saying? Basically, he was just going everywhere, doing stuff, meeting Captain America. He made all the best friends. He did all the dope stuff. He flew on all the dope jets. And then he would go into his little world and pretend he was poor, but then go hang out with these rich superheroes to save the world. There was a dissonance to that. And this movie was like, this is the last you're going to get of that shit. This is the last of all that big shit. Now we're going to tamp them down, which from what I hear about the new movie is not correct, which is pissing me off. But, you know, the promise of the
It's just like, maybe,
yeah, I know. Dude, just the promise of a street level Spider-Man is why, for my money, number 1 rocks. A lot of people have decided to Batman Begins, Spider-Man Homecoming. Fuck off. That movie's awesome. Michael Keaton's awesome. It's the appropriate threat level for Spider-Man. It's the appropriate world shit for Spider-Man. It's the appropriate I'm gonna disappoint somebody shit for Spider-Man. You know, all that shit is great. Fuck off. That's wonderful. And this movie approximates some of that towards the end. And I'm like, yeah, let's get back to that. But then, you know, he's probably going to fight, you know, the X-Men in the next one. So fuck it.
Right. I mean, the only reason why I never had a problem with the Tony Stark kind of like mentorship and getting in that way is only because we had seen it the other way twice already. I was like, if you're going to do this a third time, do something different. And this was different. So I was like, okay, I can't ask for more than that. And
yeah,
for the most part, you know, like I never had a problem with that. My problem almost is like the opposite in the sense of like, you know, did we go through all of that just to start at the beginning of where like Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield got to, you know? It's like, and you're right, I don't think that's going to happen now.
Right,
I think that was what they wanted to happen, and now that's not going to happen.
Yeah, now they knew all the fat-titted fanboys were going to go ape shit over that, as I just did. And they were like, well, fuck it. We'll get this cheap pop. You know, it's like telling a chick you love her when you don't. It gets you a cheap little pop going forward. You know what I'm saying? But it's eventually going to crumble around you, and you're going to have to reveal your lie. And that
cool suit, though. That
yeah.
was a cool suit.
Fuck, get out of here. That suit was awesome. And I'm telling you, I would just live in the moment of him going to his shitty apartment and sitting down and like living off his own dime, and just because you said they did it twice earlier. I disagree. I really feel like Sam Raimi shit were like very 70s melodramatic, which they were trying to do, and I appreciate that, and they did that. I didn't like it though. I didn't like a 70s melodrama version of Spider-Man. I would have rather him or anybody try to do a modern version of it. And then they tried to make it so modern that he was like skateboarding and shit, and he was kind of cool, even though he was Peter. I was like, nah, do you turn it down a little bit too much to the right? I told your ass, you got to balance it out. And I felt like this was finally a chance to like balance it out. I feel like Homecoming was low-key a balance of it. You know, him having saved the world basically, and then being relegated to Daredevil minus, you know, and always waiting for that next call up to the big leagues and it never coming, and him having to make do with the fact that he is the local neighborhood Spider-Man. He should deal with stuff around here, and the stuff around here is too big for the cops, but just below the Avengers. Perfect. I love Homecoming, man. Bring me on the hot takes and try to take down Homecoming. I'm gonna fucking jump through the screen like the Shocker.
Which one? Isn't there like 3 shockers in that
Well,
in that
I was
one?
meaning the fucking Wes Craven shocker that has the ability to go through TVs. I don't want to be Bo-Key Woodbine or that other motherfucker. I don't want to be neither one of them.
So we've spent a fair amount of time shitting on this, and I feel like I could probably keep going because Doctor Strange's spell makes no sense
Doctor Strange
whatsoever.
sucks in this movie so hard. Like I understand what it was like when you read a comic book and the writer doesn't get the character and just decides, oh, Reed Richards is a cold piece of shit who like smacks his wife and pushes his daughter down the stairs. Like, wait a minute, no, he's not. No, he's going to be this and this thing so that this other character he's writing can look good. That's what I feel like they did to Doctor Strange. There's no way he'd be that flippant about changing the entirety of the fucking world for this kid. There's no way. It's so dumb.
I mean,
That's
I buy
really
that.
dumb.
I buy that more than I buy like the multiverse is gonna crash because I couldn't concentrate because you were talking. Like that to me is just like such it's like, oh man, no wonder you're not the Sorcerer Supreme anymore. Like this one seems like it's pretty simple. But look, all of that to say, so it's like, okay, so Billy hated this movie, and the reality is like, no, I don't hate this movie. I hate a lot about this movie, but I want to like, what is it about this that makes me like rewatch it? One of the things that I think really works and has always worked for these 3 movies is the MJ Ned Peter like relationship. Like I don't have a problem with Ned doing magic, but that's neither here nor there. The relationship is so strong that at the end, when he is in his new apartment and he puts the little Palpatine down, like that to me was the most emotional thing ever, where, it's just like, he'll never forget his friends, but like, he can't go back. Not now, I'm sure they're going to undo this shit and Zendaya will magically remember most of it, but I did love their relationship, and it was a little on the nose, but I still like that end scene where he goes to tell her and then decides not to.
I mean, look, when we get to the end of the movie and they're trying to wrap it up and they're really pouring on the pathos or whatever. My Latin's pretty rusty. I feel like that's the heart of the movie. It's the best part of the movie, and the fact that it's at the end is kind of wild because like people would tend to think it's the action parts, but it's actually the that sort of love jazz and the payoff of them being friends for 3 movies and everything. But Marvel's gonna take their chance. This is their shot. They got there, and I'm not meaning this in a bad way. This ain't hot takes without a hot take. You've had some hot takes. Here's my hot take. They're making the Marvel Universe white again, and there ain't gonna be too much pushback on that shit. We got our nice all-American, quote-unquote, motherfucking Fantastic Four cast. They're gonna get them a nice Irish lass to be fucking MJ, and they're gonna keep it fucking moving. I really think that's going to be the case. Whether or not, MJ as an MJ, Zendaya is going to be in there still or whatever. Zendaya being like his Gwen Stacy, because he doesn't have a Gwen Stacy, and this new Mary Jane, and he realizes her initials are MJ, and that kind of pain in his heart that, my love has those same initials, and it's like the world's giving me her over again, but in this different format. I think that's going to be, they're going to make some hay off of that. You have to be an idiot screenwriter to not get some hay off of that. I think that's how it's going to go in the new one. And given the fact that he's like a grown-ass man meeting a woman, it's different. You know what I'm saying? When you meet a woman as a grown-ass man, you can't say, oh, well, I ain't got no car and I ain't got a house and I suck. You want to fuck on my bed and my mom's house. All those excuses go out the window. You have to have your own. You have to have your own place to bring them back to and all this kind of jazz. Mm-hmm. And just the life of a grown-ass man that's doing this masquerade. A little kid, you can indulge it as like, it's this fantasy, it's a fun thing, it's sort of an escape. But as a grown man being Spider-Man, even a young grown man, it's hurt. and pain and pulling yourself apart at the seams all the time to keep up adult responsibilities and be Spider-Man. It's a fucking lot, dude. And I would love to see that Spider-Man for once. That Sam Raimi Spider-Man, I'm sorry, just because he delivered some pizzas and he was sad, doesn't get over the fact of like communicating his poverty. You know what I'm saying?
Eating cake with that weird chick in the hallway, the longest, weirdest scene I've ever seen.
You know what I mean? Like that. I don't know that that's communicating what I need to be communicated about the pressures of being Spider-Man. And I really felt like at the end of this movie, they're setting you up for that again, as we've belabored. They're probably not going to do that. So fuck it.
I mean, okay, so if they don't, then at least I feel satisfied with like how the relationship went in this one, because it does end in a heartbreaker. And I, the actually the part that I really loved is, MJ has been kind of like this cynical kind of character this whole time, and she's always like, expect the worst and you'll never be disappointed. And then when Peter goes to say it at the end, and she's the one that's like, no, this is gonna work. Like I loved that moment of like her realizing that her cynicism was not what Peter needed in that moment. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
I loved that. And then they follow it up with a really funny joke, which is like, let's kick some ass. No, let's cure some ass, in the most Tobey Maguire way possible, which is like monotone and hilarious. So I love that relationship. I thought the action too was really great. I know you're not super jazzed on Doctor Strange, but I love the mirror dimension fight in this movie. It's not super long, but it's
I
just
like
cool enough to, yeah. And I actually like, and this is a theme throughout the entire MCU, which I'm glad that they have not abandoned yet, which is like math and science are cool, and a lot of times they're cooler than anything else. So for Peter to realize like, hey, this magic that you use is actually just math, like I can figure that out. I really liked that a lot.
No, I mean, it was that, to me, that's a crowning achievement in the movie as much as, I mean, I think the ending and that scene are like the best scenes in the movie by far, because people don't remember back in my day, the original Squirrel Girl was Spider-Man. You could find, if you said, hey, Spider-Man couldn't beat this character, take your ass to the comic book shop and go into the crates and dig in them. You will find Spider-Man being able to beat almost anybody, from math to and playing his environment to speed and will, to a combination of all of those most of the time. He's beaten the Juggernaut. He's beaten like Sentinels. He's beaten like all types of shit. Spider-Man can beat it. And I just love that the X-Men, he beat the fucking X-Men's ass in the Secret Wars of the 80s. So it's like, yeah, he could fucking beat Stephen Strange. Stephen Strange has human reflexes. Magic will not defeat how smart I am plus how fast and dope I am. Magic's no match for that, actually. You know what I mean? And I love that. That was really badass to me. That's my Spider-Man. You know what I'm saying?
Especially up until that point, really, other than Thanos, nobody has gotten the best of Doctor Strange at that point. Doctor Strange has kind of been like their end all be all in terms of like, yeah, maybe not the most powerful, but certainly like the smartest, the most cunning, someone who doesn't really, lose a whole lot. And then for the first person to really get the better of him to be Spider-Man, this kid that he thought he was doing a favor for, I really like that. I love the spider sense taking over the box. He's trying to grab the box and pushes Peter in the astral form. Like, I just loved all of that. They finally, I liked that, like in the first movie, it's Iron Man and he's very subservient to Tony, and Iron Man trying to get his approval. In the second movie, it's kind of like a combination of Nick Fury and Happy are kind of like the mentors for that season, and again, a little bit of subservience. And in this one, I like that about halfway through the movie, he realizes like, you're kind of in my way and I don't need you. And I feel like that was the first time we've seen this Spider-Man be like, not only do I belong amongst these peers of superheroes, but like I have different opinions than them. I can do things without them. And I kind of feel like, to your point, like that's kind of the beginning of where we end up at the end, which is like, I can do this on my own, you know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that lack of a support system was always one of Spider-Man's greatest traits. And I think we've been a tiny bit poisoned by the recent Bendisization. Look about Brian Michael Bendis, very, very popular comic book art writer. Bendis made the world small. He made every fucking body an Avenger. Fucking Daredevil on the cover of an Avengers book, pushing the Hulk's chest or pushing Scar's chest while he's knocking Iron Man and Black Panther and all these people off, and Daredevil's pushing on his chest like, no, and the fucking book says New Avengers. Vomit, man. Stop the fucking madness. Every fucking body is Storm's an Avenger, for Christ's sake. You know what I mean? It's insane. So like this channeling of these specific comic book silos, and Spider-Man being able to go into different people's silos and have fun in their adventures, but always having to retreat back to his, and other people having to retreat back to theirs. I would love some of that in this so-called new connective universe, because it feels like when there strong fences make for good neighbors, right? And I really feel like this new era, they need to put some fences up between these products so that when somebody hops the fence, it's either an act of aggression or your buddy coming over with a beer. But either way, it's significant. I would really like for them to do that.
Just kind of looking over my notes, like the things I did. Like, I know I've been harping on the fact that these characters a lot of times don't feel like the same characters. That being said, what an upgrade for Electro. Like, I'm more than happy to take. I felt like this was a much better take on that character. It seemed like Jamie Foxx was much more comfortable, not in that ridiculous blue whatever he was in that other movie. Mm-hmm. And I really liked the idea of him kind of being like, the energy here is different. I found this arc reactor. I could be a king here with that. You know, it's like, why would I give this up? I feel like he was like one of the only ones that had a legitimate, like, why would I cure this? You know, like even more than like Norman Osborn, to the point where I was just kind of like, I almost don't know if you needed one or the other. Like, I would have been just fine if Electro was the head of all of them, you know?
Well, Electro being power, but it's going back to our takes 3 Spider-Mans to stop him. If there was like an Electro or one of the characters or 2 of the characters make a plan together or whatever, and they're so powerful that they one Spider-Man is not enough, and they're 2 Spider-Man villains becoming good buddies becomes this thing that changes the future, tears the world apart, whatever, to the point where, multiverse Spider-Man start popping up being like, this is the start of the Electro Osborn Corporation of America that spans the stars for 5,000 years. Like, really? Yeah, because your bitch ass wanted to go to college with your friends. Something. I know that, again, those type of plots are just as hack as anything we've talked about here. But damn, man, just something to where they paid that off a little bit more. But I felt it. I felt how powerful this Electro was. I felt how motivated he was. But then he just sort of gets like shit canned so that we can concentrate on Osborn and have a wrestling match.
Which is like, it's frustrating because Electro is one of the only ones in this movie that has a very clear want. You know, he wants that box because he doesn't want to leave. I understand that. I don't really understand what everyone else wants, because they all either want different things or they don't really have a want. Like, Lizard doesn't really have a want. He just kind of wants to be left alone, I guess. I don't know. Like, Flint doesn't want to go back, which I'm like, great. There's conflict there with Electro that they never really pay off. And then like Green Goblin, even him, it's like, we just know through the mythology that this is supposed to be the bad guy, but he doesn't. It's like his things kind of explain away. It's like, you coward, there's new worlds to conquer. It's like, okay, but what do you want? Like, make it. I guess that's where it's like, as amazing as that third act is, and it's so fun to watch all the different combinations of Spider-Man's fighting each other's villains. There is a little bit of a lack of stakes, only because we're like, is he after the box? Like, what did the villains want? I know what the heroes want. They're trying to cure you all, but what are you guys doing other than just like, let's just fight them because they're here, you know?
Right. And just this weird conflagration of like, well, if these guys pop into this world, what if they're I was watching a Black Mirror episode, and I won't even describe any of the plot, but there's something that is changing like reality. So what if all those guys popped in and it seemed like they were already there the whole time, and they were part of the task force or part of the evil people and the good people who were all chasing after Spider-Man because they thought he was a murderer or whatever, or that maybe the bad guys were chasing him because like, you fucked up our murderous guy who was going to hook us up with all kind of tech or whatever, and the good guys are chasing him because they think he's bad, and all that shit happens, and then other Spider-Mans have to pop in and be like, oh shit, you're not my guy, that's my guy. Well, that's my guy. Do I recognize that guy? Oh, you look different. All those little hijinks could happen. I think that could have been interesting too, but for what we got, my favorite stuff was obviously 3 Spider-Man working together. I like Peter taking charge. I liked in an odd way, he's kind of by far the most experienced Spider-Man, even though those guys have done a lot of shit. It's like, did you fight fucking Thanos? Did you die? Right. Like that meme, did you die? Then I'm the fucking captain here, okay? You know what I mean? So creaky back and big hair, come help me.
Huge hair.
Come help me fight this shit. This is my adventure, bitch. I got main character syndrome. Yeah.
I agree. What's funny is like, yeah, I do think that like, if I ever see Andrew Garfield as Spider-Man again, he's almost like the Hulk to me now, where I'm like, you only work if you're in someone else's movie. I don't think you work on your own. But one of the other like really small cool things that I just like I got a kick out of was Peter being able to control Octavius's arms with his nanobots. For some reason, just like that, I was like, oh, that's clever. I like that. And then having like the control over him, I was like, that I understand. I don't understand why anyone else went with him to that apartment, but at least I understand why Octavius did.
Right.
And again, just like the infantilization of all these characters for the sake of humor, where it's like, do you drink fresh water or salt water because you're an octopus? I'm like, come on, Marissa Tomei. He's clearly not a real octopus the same way the guy's a lizard over there, okay? Like,
dude, but like on some real shit though, her trying to figure out what they like from like their profiles or whatever, like okay, so I figure you for a tonic water, I figure you for malt liquor, and they'd be like, wait, and then Jamie Foxx is like, what, bitch? It's like, no, I was offering that to the lizard. What, bitch? Crazy ass joke. Like, just assumes this lizard likes malt liquor. But you know what I'm saying? Her just trying to see what they liked. Could have been, that is a funny scene, but then they just, do you like salt? That's stupid. But
it was just like a dad joke that they threw in there, but like it kind of just, the way she sold it just makes her look stupid, which look, a lot of the humor in this movie relies on a character that we know or like having to kind of look stupid in order for the joke to land, which is like, okay, it's so brief that I'm nitpicking, but I feel like you can find it all throughout this movie.
Oh yeah, no, we're getting to the part where I think we can. What I wanted to do was try to compare it to some of this newer stuff, because as much as we've nitpicked this thing for a while, there's no way this movie isn't 15 times better than something like Brave New World, which isn't even, that shows you how good the Marvel formula is actually, or the Marvel producing team working along with Sony Pictures. They're so good that an average one of these movies is kind of bad and kind of boring in parts, but the moment to moment entertainment level is higher than a lot of other stuff in this genre for right now, for
Yeah.
theatrical releases in particular. So like Brave New World had so many things that were just as infantilizing, just as hand wavy, like, oh, this plot will, woo, now you care about this. We don't worry about that thing we left dangling. Think about this now. Such moment to moment hand waving. And when I was doing for my Patreon, my Brave New World assessment, it was like, when you look at that versus the Russo brothers movie, the Winter Soldier, that they were aping clearly with the Manchurian Candidate plot, there's a deep state doing this, all that jazz, they're doing it. I felt as though that plot, we love Winter Soldier so much, the plot isn't that much greater than Brave New World, but every execution of every scene of that plot, every line of dialogue that supports that scene, which supports that plot, every hand wave is deft. You know what I'm saying? Like when they're doing those long ass takes and somebody walks right in front of the camera and they get to like reset, and that whip hides the transition. The Russos and Marcus McFeely were just able to hide the seams better, and they're doing it better than this movie's doing it. But like, this movie is more akin to the Russo brothers type of, just let's get us out of this scene. Yeah, Ned does magic. Fuck it. Look over here. That acceleration and that look over there, that David Blaine like sleight of hand jazz that these Marvel movies have been doing to us for almost 20 years now. It has to be executed in a deft way, or else you see that it is stupid as hell. And we've just ran into a series of movies recently where you could just see the seams too much and it's stupid as hell. And I know that's a new podcaster term where people go, oh, I could see the seams. Bitch, it's literally stitched together in an editing machine. I'm quite sure you could see the seams, you fucking idiot. But I'm talking about, like, damn, the story not making sense, us having to, just turn our brains off for a section of the story so that we can get to this thing, the infantilization you were talking about. All that jazz is present in all these movies, which is why I was saying that point about this is children's entertainment before. But it was executed with such an elan that you didn't feel like you were watching shit for babies. This is teetering on the edge of being too babyish. And Brave New World is almost falling off the edge of that. But like Quantum Mania, some of those other movies are sliding down a gully of that shit. To me, Multiverse of Madness slid down the gully of idiotic children's programming. They might as well have been singing their fucking ABCs. You know what I'm saying?
I will say, no, I do, because I actually think that was kind of what I was thinking when I was watching No Way Home. Like, for as many problems as I have with this movie, why do I keep watching it with a big stupid smile on my face? Like, if you truly trash something the way I have this movie for the last hour, what is it? I'm like, because Spider-Man No Way Home is the best magic show I've seen in a long time. Every time I start to think about how they're doing the trick and how they're gonna, why this is probably a waste of my time, they do a sleight of hand and they either whiz me off to a new action sequence that's awesome, or they start to sprinkle in, like I said, that hilarious interplay between like Electro and Sandman is sandwiched in between the make shit happen machine and do you want some saltwater octopus man? Like every time it just starts to lose me, they do a new magic trick. And I think, like you said, was it Watts? He's just a really good magician. Like, he strung together an amazing magic show that, on your drive home from the show, you start thinking like, well, how did they put those tricks together? And it's kind of less fun. Like, it's almost, I acknowledge, like, oh, you must be real fun at a party. Yeah, it's probably not meant for me to pick it apart the way I have, and to just enjoy the ride. That being said, like, there were things about it that it's like you set yourself up to really blow my mind and you just didn't do it. Like, I just can't get over the dropping the Mysterio thing. And I really thought that Mysterio was coming back in the next one.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I mean,
Was it just me or no?
they almost had the whole freaking Sinister Six. Say that 3 times fast. You know, again, a Sinister Six movie.
Senator Sticks, yes.
A Senator Sticks. What say you? And he just rubs his hands together to make fire. I just feel like we were so close to having the Sinister Six and all of law enforcement and even superheroes all chasing Spider-Man, and even maybe capturing him and like doing about to kill him or doing something bad to him, and then Spider-Man show up and start beating everybody's ass. And you're like, wait a minute, what? And let's jailbreak, and two Spider-Man show up and get him out or whatever. You know,
I was gonna say, wouldn't it be awesome? I said at the beginning, don't do this, but I'm doing it anyway. Wouldn't it have been awesome if those other Spider-Men came, because only Spider-Man could stop Spider-Man, and he had to convince them, like, I did not murder this guy. I actually need your help, you know?
Yeah, that's interesting, because a dedicated Spider-Man under duress, as I stated earlier, can beat anybody for real.
Right.
He's smart enough. He's either strong enough, fast enough, agile enough, or smart enough to beat anybody. And he usually combines all those things to be very tough to deal with. So like him don't push me because I'm close to the edge, you know, that sort of Spider-Man is really dangerous. And the whole Marvel universe seeing that, like, oh yeah, we dispatched everybody to go get these. War Machine came back all fucked up. All these dudes came back, broke off, trying to fuck with, you know, Spider-Man. Like, I would have loved that, actually. All the people that they can afford in the Marvel universe, like those lower tier guys, going on a midnight run after Spider-Man, and he's beating their ass, and they're going back with busted up tooth, talking to, like, doing Joe Rogan interviews with J.K. Simmons, talking about, man, I had him dead to rights, man, just outside of Waxahachie, Tennessee. This motherfucker swung off a power line.
J.K. Simmons, another thing where they're like, wow, that was awesome in the stinger for Far From Home. In this movie, they had no idea what to do with him.
True.
He shows up a couple times, and every time he shows up, it's completely inconsequential to whatever's happening or the plot. You did not need him in this movie. You deserve better, JK. Sorry, buddy, this wasn't it.
Yeah, man. To go from such a well-drawn character to something like that was sort of a whiplash. Wouldn't you agree?
And I really liked the spin on the Daily Bugle being this kind of like InfoWars type thing, but then when you plaster it all over
Times Square,
it was a lot.
That's dystopian. That's like for the movie Equilibrium or something. Like, this dystopian government is shooting shit up on the stars. I mean, that's what anybody with a brain going to Times Square feels like right now. Damn.
Yep. Look, clearly I'm wrong, because this movie made $1 billion+ and a lot of people say this is one of the best, if not the best, Spider-Man movie. I disagree with that. I think it's one of the most rewatchable Spider-Man movies for sure. Mm-hmm. Like I said, like, this is one of, and these are getting harder as the MCU goes along, but I do think that this is one of the few where, like, it is totally acceptable to throw this on while you're cleaning the house or doing something and pop your head in to see, you know, like, it's not like you know, Winter Soldier, where it's like, well, if I'm going to watch this, I need to really watch it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, I mean, but and getting to the jazz about why it hit so hard, we can't. I like sports, and as a nerd, it's like a weird cross to bear, because, like, you're a dork amongst the jocks and you're a dork amongst the dorks. You know what I'm saying? Because, like, we're the consumerist dorks. We can't exactly, like, fix computer, like, servers and shit like that, like real nerds. So we have to, like, settle into this placeholder of being, you know, fanboys of childish literature and having all this wells of useless knowledge. But, like, it really feels like this sort of movie and that sort of time that we were living in, we really In sports, people try so hard to talk about the GOAT. There isn't any fucking GOAT because every 5-6 years the rules change. And every decade the game is played different. Whatever sport you're talking about. We don't have to belabor that point. So what I'm saying is for the sport of Marvel shit, this is up there. This is some fucking, if this ain't Michael Jordan, this is like Charles Barkley in them or Shaq or somebody or Kobe or somebody. This shit is very good. It's going to suffer maybe in some future, some far-flung future, as far as being compared to whatever we're doing then, or maybe not. Maybe people will blow this movie out of some stupid nostalgia the way they blow Michael Jordan just because he was the most marketed player to them when they were fucking 6. Maybe we'll be like that about this sort of stuff. I don't know. But it doesn't take away its position in time. It was the movie for that time. Blade coming out in the middle of the fucking Omicron virus wouldn't have exactly moved the fucking needle. You know what I'm saying? We needed that Spider-Man movie. We needed that communal experience. We needed that panting Andrew Garfield so that he could get his lines out, you know, once the crowd died down that you talked about. We needed something exactly like this. And in a future context, yeah, Bob Cousy looks stupid dribbling with one hand and throwing up granny shots. But in his day, he was perfect for that time. And that's what this movie is to me. It's like perfect for its moment. And this and Mission Impossible saved movies. If we're still watching movies in 2060, it's because of shit like this. It's because of that, you know, that sort of attention to the 4 quadrants. I hate to worship at that altar, but I don't think I've seen in recent years a better so-called 4 quadrant movie. It got all the oldsters who saw Gwen Stacy die and cried. It got all the original Marvelites who worshiped that original troika of characters. It got newbies. It got Gen Zers. It got so many different people. And it really succeeded on all those levels. And so, yes, sometimes the movie's 4 years old. Sometimes the movie's 45 years old. You know what I'm saying? As far as its mental abilities. It's trying to appeal to all those different people. And so if you're going to make a pizza that has ice cream and also fiber, you know what I'm saying? And also it's sushi and you make it palatable, I can't hate on you too much. We hot taked about it, but neither of us can really hate on it too much because it is an ice cream, cotton candy, steak concoction. And it still works. Like this cotton candy steak, good to the motherfucker, man. I like to come by here, eat me a cotton candy steak every now and again.
It's also interesting. I didn't think about this until I was just looking at it right now. Not only did this kind of like save, you know, movies, the theater, this was also, I don't know if this has ever been this many in a year. This was the 4th MCU movie to come out in 2021. There were 4 MCU movies. There was Black Widow in July. They did that Disney Plus simultaneous thing, which ended up in a lawsuit. Then there was Shang-Chi, probably my favorite of that whatever phase we were on after Endgame. And then there was Eternals about 1 month before Spider-Man No Way Home. But it took No Way Home to finally get people to truly come back. Like Black Widow wasn't going to do it. Shang-Chi, no one knew who it was yet. And Eternals, no one was going to do it. It took Spider-Man. It took 3 Spider-Men to get people back. And to your point, something that I feel like, even though, and this is for a different episode, because I know how most people feel about it. Even though I really like The Flash, I was surprised that thing just bombed hard because I thought Keaton coming back as Batman, how could this bomb? And then when I really thought about it, it's like, well, No Way Home did something really smart because they got millennials and they got, you know, the next generation also with Garfield. They had their nostalgia covered through like 2 generations because kids who were too young to see Raimi's ones in the theaters got to see Andrew Garfield later. And it's kind of like the Star Wars prequels where we don't realize it until later, but there is a subsect of kids who Andrew Garfield was their Spider-Man because that's the first one they got to see in a theater. So it's like you had your nostalgia pretty well prepped with those two. Plus, Tom Holland is the current flavor that everyone's making those Tumblr fan cams for. So it was like, yeah, this thing was poised to be huge, and it honestly it could have just been 1,000 times worse and probably still made money. So the fact that it's like incredibly watchable is it's kind of a miracle. And with COVID, and it was supposed to come out like after another movie, so they had to rewrite and redo things. Poor Benedict Cumberbatch. Everything got way out of order for it. Wasn't it supposed to be like first was multiverse, and then it was supposed to be WandaVision, and then it was this, and then
I think that was the case. I think that was the case. That sounds out of whack enough. Given the way that it happened, that sounds just out of whack enough. Plus, I didn't know the character of Wanda. Yeah, when they were doing Multiverse of Madness, they didn't really know her character. They hadn't really seen all the stuff.
Well, plus that makes sense why Ned does the magic, because I think America Chavez was originally supposed to be, an apprentice to Doctor Strange from the last movie, but then it ends up serving neither Ned or America Chavez the way that it panned out,
Yeah. Well, if I had any summary thoughts about the movie, like I said, I think for something that pissed me off so much from the beginning, but laid the groundwork. It's like when I say the Batman Begins of stuff. When people forget how important the first movie was, as I stated about Homecoming, you can't forget that groundwork. And sometimes when you're laying hella groundwork, it's like eating vegetables and shit. But the meat and potatoes and the fucking, ice cream and shit is on its way. But unless you eat these fucking greens, you're never going to shit that other stuff out. You know what I mean? So I really felt like for this movie, if I were just going to grade it, I think the opening parts, setting up the fact that like that was a great cliffhanger, but we're not going to do that movie. Sorry to tell you. That's a grinding my gears ass, a bunch of roughage. You know what I'm saying? But we got through it, and it just started getting fun every 5 or so minutes. Like you were saying, the metronome on this thing is just perfect, kind of perfect. When it's going back and forth, as soon as it starts getting too dumb, they'll throw some innovation in. As soon as it gets a little bit too plotty, there's a bit. As soon as it gets a little bit too bitty, a big part of the plot comes in. We didn't really talk about Aunt May's death. I mean, I suppose you put a spoiler alarm on this. Spoiler alarm? What the fuck? I walked past a laser talking about the Iron Man dying, and like, wait a minute, what? I really feel like the thing that was the most grown up about this movie, and I'm glad that we kind of were talking about it towards the end, because it's a fucking bummer. But like, the thing that got me in the theater was that, oh my god, they fucking killed her. As soon as that explosion happened, I said in my mind, oh my god, they fucking killed her. And I said that because that type of thing doesn't kill people in movies. Aunt May from the Raimiverse got blown up 15 times, it seemed like. This doesn't kill you in these movies. And for some reason in this one, it does. And usually I would take that as like, do my I'm not a CinemaSins hater, but I don't necessarily like people who think that way about every fucking thing. But I will say my CinemaSins mind would have popped in at that point. Like, this didn't seem to be enough. But I didn't have any of that in my mind. I was like, oh my God, this is something that would kill a person. This is a real person who's hanging out with all these super gods and fast healing teenagers and shit. If she experiences the things that they experience, she will die. And then she did. And I was like, fuck, bro. Like, that's why he's always tried to keep his life separate. And that's why all of this, keeping her around, and even to a certain extent, her liking happy, being that close to the Iron Man-ness and shit like that. He didn't like it. That was his last like vestige of like human love and hope in the world, besides maybe MJ and Ned. And I would hazard a guess that she was more important than fucking MJ and Ned. She was his whole root system. And the fact that he let her get too close to this world killed her ass. And I was just so like, they had me basically from that point. You know what I mean? For the rest of the movie, Vin Diesel.
I wish there was just a little bit stronger of a connection between Peter and Goblin by that point, because it's like that's what really precipitates the hatred at the end. Just because I would have loved just like a slightly more personal feeling to that kill other than collateral damage. But given what it is, like Marissa Tomei, I love that, like, and it's a lot of movies try this and they don't pull it off. This movie pulled it off, which is where I was like, okay, she gets back up. She's not dead. It's not, and like they let you think she's gonna be roughed up but all right, and then she's not all right, and then she's done. And then the police show up to arrest Peter for whatever reason, and Happy gets arrested for what, I don't know. Those are like where like those plot machinations pull me back out again, because I'm like, wait, why are they here? Why are they just after Peter? I thought he was not guilty, but you know, like those are where those things kind of like took away. But like in a vacuum, if I just watch her death scene by itself, it's like, yeah, that's like, you can't ask for anything more. And the fact that they went for it truly cemented like this is a different Peter and a different place than the other ones. I liked all the Peters have their own kind of trauma point, and we finally got a real one for this one, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. And I'd be remiss if I didn't mention Ron's favorite scene of like Andrew Garfield saving MJ because he couldn't save his Gwen Stacy. Yeah, all the film nerds love that one, and I liked it too. And what I liked about it was just like, it seems like Spider-Man can only take so much tragedy. You know, there has to be some sort of hope to his existence. And like, given that Spider-Man who had yes, it was just a talking scene, but to me, again, the CIA really cooked our noodles with this show don't tell shit. You realize that fucking Russian fucking authors and different people across the East were writing weird ass novels where people were really interior and doing all this weird stuff, and the CIA came in and said show don't tell, because Western people didn't do it as much as those people, and we had a nice hero's journey story structure. Show don't tell became put in everybody's bones as like some law. I don't know. The USS Indianapolis scene from Jaws is a lot of fucking telling, and it's fucking awesome. You know what I'm saying? So like, that's what Andrew Garfield was going for. The USS Indianapolis speech of Spider-Man. Like, what could happen to make a Spider-Man be down and not make crack jokes and stuff? He did his speech. He did a good job. And then for that to be paid off later, that's kind of the wispiness of these sort of plots. That's the wispiness of these connectivities with all of these different characters. I really feel like John Watts and the screenwriters did a great job of having like just the barest little thread tying this whole thing together. This is like a bunch of 100-pound anvils held together by thread. That's what this movie seems to be. And I really appreciate that. I appreciate the fact that we can see that these anvils should be dropping on our heads. This thread is no way. There's no way this thread should hold this up, but it just does.
I like that moment. I also feel like that's not as egregious by any stretch of the imagination, but it's a little bit of the Daredevil one for me, where it's like, but if you don't know what happened, because he's very vague about the way that he has that speech about I tried and I couldn't. If you don't really know, like it just kind of feels like I don't know, slightly like that's kind of weird, but not weird enough for me to brush past, you know, like not weird enough for me to hang on, but like I don't know. It's the double-edged sword of these comic book movies that I don't think any other genre of movie necessarily even has to worry about, which is like paying off threads to a movie set in a different universe that you had to have seen 7 years prior.
Wow, yeah. You know? I was gonna mention like, well, actually, I just saw the Minecraft movie against my fucking will, and I'm watching it, and there's a part where like a chicken comes out, and then like this zombie dude jumps on the chicken's back and starts riding it, and they go chicken rider, and all the little kids went fucking ape shit. Like, I guess this chicken rider is like some huge thing in Minecraft. And I was thinking, well, that's just like that, Billy. No, it's fucking not. Because, like you said, you'd have to, if there was 3 different versions, 3 different attempted trilogies of Minecraft, and you had to know something about one specific Minecraft one trilogy ago to make this work. That's what you're saying, and that's what they expect out of us. But again, they're trying to be all things to all people, and that's why, honestly, the business moguls down to the nerds like us blow these Marvel movies so fucking hard and to completion, is because they are somehow able to be, a lot of the time, something your 60-something-year-old dad can watch, something your 40-year-old ass can watch, something your fucking young kids can watch, and you just throw it on and you can just watch the shit. We're getting into a world where you watching White Lotus and dicks are popping out or something, you know, all these weird stories are for these micro niche audiences, right? Where
Right.
the business has become micro niche, and we're up here picking holes in something that got people to come into a fucking sandstorm of droplets and sickness. They braved it to come support this story. You know what I mean? That's how powerful the marketing of these guys are, how much goodwill story-wise, you know, these characters have had. It's just kind of remarkable. So I'm glad we were able to like look at that as like the phenomenon it was. Because yeah, a little slip of sketch of a story written by 57 guys and a bunch of Sri Lankan engineers working overtime, and it turned into something that we'll probably watch for years to come. You know, as we get smarter and this movie gets dumber, or as the technology changes, the blah blah. I think I'll still revisit this movie occasionally. I will say this: I don't watch this movie that much, and frankly, I didn't rewatch it again for this thing. I watched it once that time, and I watched it a couple times when it was like first on. I think it was on Disney Plus for a second, and then it moved to like Amazon. And I think my girl bought it or whatever. So I was like, okay, cool. I'll watch it whenever I want to. And then that time never really came up. But it's comforting to know that it's there in a way that Brave New World or Multiverse of Madness or any of this bullshit will never be. This is so much more akin to a Avengers Endgame or Infinity War or something to me than any of those other movies. And that's an interesting hot take.
I don't think I've ever spent this long shitting on something that I've watched at least 10 or 11 times at this point. You know, like I like I said, whenever this pops up on like TV, I'll stop on FX or whatever it is. I'll watch that shit, as you said, to completion almost every single time. It's an amazing magic show. I don't think it's a great movie, but I think like it's an amazing blanket of nostalgia, of comfort, with it's got everything. Just it's made of glass, and it's it is made of glass, and it can easily break if you try to overthink it. But
super last things last, it is emblematic though. We will see this as the canary in the coal mine of the, we remember when Scorsese was calling these movies just rides and they weren't really stories.
Yeah,
he wasn't wrong. That was the crazy part.
So. Yeah.
It was, but what it is and I liken it to I Am Legend really quickly. In I Am Legend, not the movie with Will Smith, in the book, which was I think the book is called I Am Legend, and they made it into a movie called Omega Man and different stuff. Bottom line is, obviously all things we call evolution aren't evolution. Sometimes we're not evolving. Sometimes things are getting worse. I think perhaps a certain sort of storytelling is getting worse with these movies. But as in Omega Man / I Am Legend, the original end of the novel of I Am Legend, the guy, Robert Neville, the only last man on Earth, realizes that his time is gone. He's the last man on Earth, and he's going out every day killing vampires. So who's the fucking monster? He's the monster. He's holding up the fact that we're all going to be vampires now. Fuck it. Well, Marvel bit the movies in the motherfucking neck, bro. And now the movies are these wispy, threadbare, memberberry necklaces made at camp. And that's what movies are now. That's what the blockbuster is now. It is a story. I don't want to call it evolution, but it's certainly a mutation of story. These things are the stories of our day for this type of thing. They're a different sort of story than ever was. And so, yeah, the people who like on Golden Pond and shit are like, motherfucker, that ain't even a movie. Fuck that. We're just old enough to have some of those genes inside us that tell us this ain't even a fucking story, bro. But the Zoomers and the weirdos and the youngsters and the stuff, they're realizing that like stories are changing. They're reading manga that don't make no goddamn sense. They're watching cartoons that don't make no goddamn sense. So why not watch a fucking movie that don't make no goddamn sense? What's the difference? You know what I mean? Things are, I don't want to say evolving, but they are changing. And I think movies like this and the Marvel movies in general are bellwethers of that new vampire movie culture, that new creature that the blockbuster is, that your lighthearted romantic comedy is not, that your biopic is not, that your drama is not, that your historical drama is not. This is a different species of thing, and we're going to have to start treating it as such in order to really get the benefits of what it is, to really judge it on its actual merits, because these motherfuckers ain't regular movies no more. That's over.
How many people you think saw the Spider-Man thumbnail for this and eagerly clicked and are just so angry that I'm back now?
That's the point of the fucking show, though, dude.
What is the ratio of people who are more disappointed in this episode? Look, I've sat on these thoughts for 4 years. They got to go somewhere, right? My wife can't bear the whole burden on her own.
Your wife's head looks like the leader's head. It's just blowing up from all your bullshit.
So please stop talking. Well, there you have it. Spider-Man No Way Home. I've poked enough holes in it for it to sink, and yet it floats somehow magically. I don't know if that same could be said about my show, but I'm back. Here it is. I got a lot of stuff coming up. Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny with Ken Knapsack and Smallville. Do you know producer Bill and I talked for 2 hours about 10 seasons of Smallville?
I can't wait to hear that one.
Yeah, I was very surprised at where that conversation went. That's all coming, plus a lot more. I've learned my lesson, Ed. I'm not saying how many episodes. I'm not saying when I'm stopping. I'm not even going to say what's next week because I don't know what the release order is. So I'm just going to say thank you, Ed. Thank you, listeners. Thank you, everyone. And I'm sure you'll hear my stupid voice sooner or later.